So you know how there are those people who are breaking up with their boyfriends because their boyfriends voted for Trump and everybody's like, oh, well, it's just politics, people can have differing opinions. No. Yes, people can have different opinions, but not when it comes to human rights. Like different opinions when it comes to like pizza toppings or like what's your favorite ice cream flavor or like what's your favorite color. Like different opinions, yeah, that's completely valid. Like you can't be racist or sexist or homophobic and just be like, "Oh, well, it's just my opinion." Like no, it's not an opinion. It's just you're just being a bigot. I just don't understand why this is so hard to conceptualize. Like why can't people just not be racist? Like, why can't people just not be homophobic? Like, why can't people just not be sexist? Like, it's really not that hard. So the people who are breaking up with their partners because their partners voted for Trump, I think it's valid because it's not just about different opinions. It's not just about politics anymore. It's about a lot more.
Now, this flips the whole narrative. Everyone thinks it's only women walking out, but nah. Men are getting radicalized on too. And the pipeline she described, church to political extremism, that's textbook radicalization. One Sunday it's Bible study, next Sunday it's conspiracy theories at the dinner table. But imagine being a black man married to a Puerto Rican woman, and she starts supporting policies that target people who look like both of you. That's a fish campaigning for dehydration. It defies every survival instinct. But that's what ideology does. It overrides logic with loyalty.
And I have seen a couple of the videos, but I need to see more. So if you are a man who decided not to date somebody who was like very, very Christian, MAGA-ish, let me know. I want to hear those stories. I don't think we got enough of those. You guys have a blessed day.
Divorces are up, and they are up over politics. Here is just one example. I'm starting divorce procedures with my husband after I found out he voted for Donald Trump. It's not the only reason. We've already had problems like him forcing me to go to church or having me quit my job and become a housewife because he got promoted for a good job. I couldn't find a job where we moved, so I settled in doing housework. I cook, I clean, I'm good at it, but the Trump vote was the last straw, and his lack of remorse. We had a conversation. I told him how hurt I was, how he knew how much I hated Trump, the trauma that man has put me through, but he did not care. I should be grateful because of the job benefits he'll have for his line of work. I'm not going to do this anymore. We have no prenup. I'm going to fight for my rights. We've been married 8 years. I've sacrificed so much. Not anymore. I'm going to take everything I'm owed.
No prenup just became the two scariest words in this man's vocabulary. But listen to what she actually described. Forced to church, forced to quit her job, forced to move, forced into a role she didn't choose. That vote wasn't the disease, it was the final symptom. The proof that her feelings ranked below everything else. And when she said, "This hurts me," he said, "Be grateful." You just told your wife your job perks matter more than her pain and you're shocked she's leaving? 8 years of sacrifice, no prenup, career abandoned. The judge is going to have a field day.
The political divide is as big as I've ever seen it, and I've been a divorce lawyer for 20 years, so people have been coming in and talking about their political differences as one of the conflicts that exist in their house for a long time, but it is now at an all-time high. The ideological divide in this country has just gotten wider and wider and wider, and many of us were hopeful that after the election there would be some relief, but it seems to have only exacerbated the divide. Have you all seen this in your friend group? Are you watching this happen near you as well?
I've been reading articles and posts about people who have left their partners and spouses over the vote after discovering that they voted for Trump. And the reaction to those revelations is quite interesting. I kind of laugh when somebody says, "Oh, you're leaving your spouse over politics." And it's like, no, that's not what it is. It's like Trump gives people permission to embrace their worst impulses. And when somebody is embracing their worst impulses all the time, it's very hard to be around that. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be around somebody who's being the worst version of themselves all the time.
A divorce lawyer of 20 years said this is the worst she's ever seen. Worse than infidelity, worse than financial ruin. And she nailed it. Permission to embrace their worst impulses. Nobody became terrible overnight. The terrible was always dormant, just waiting for a permission slip. Before 2016, your problematic uncle at least had the decency to keep it to himself at Thanksgiving. Now he's got a hat and a megaphone, and you're supposed to just pass the gravy. When somebody shows you who they really are at their worst and they're proud of it, that's not politics, that's a character reveal, and some people don't survive the reveal.
Just a thought. I think, the vote maybe was, a permission slip or a trigger point for the partner to realize, wow, maybe this person is actually not the person that I thought. Just a thought.
It seems that some men understand that there has been a swift shift in our society when it comes to relationships and marriage between men and women, but they're really not willing to do anything about it. I think for the most part in America, we created a society where men and women are simply not compatible anymore, sticking a square peg in a hole. So I asked this person, okay, what do you think it takes for men and women to be compatible? And he responded, I don't know, things will balance themselves out eventually and bring back trust between men and women, which leads to loyalty and vulnerability. So let me translate that for you. Women are now communicating with each other. They're finding their voice. They are speaking to each other. They're speaking out for each other. They're speaking out for themselves. They have grown a backbone because we now can get jobs. We can get educated. We can get our finances in order. We can get houses. And we now look at men and say, you know what? This shit that worked 30 years ago doesn't work anymore because we don't need to rely on you for our financial safety. And now we're looking at men saying, you know what, you got to bring something more. You got to bring the emotional shit. And men are like, whoa, don't got it. Stop asking me for that. That's not what marriage is about. That's not what relationships are about. Things are not going to balance themselves out. We're not going back to the way that things were.
Things will balance themselves out is code for I'm going to do absolutely nothing and hope she stops complaining. That's the plan. Just wait. While women are getting degrees, buying houses, building careers, his strategy is to run out the clock. She nailed the translation. Women don't need you for survival anymore. So now they're asking for something you have to actually work for: emotional intelligence, communication, basic human connection. And dudes are acting like that's unreasonable. You want me to have feelings? Then what exactly are you bringing to the table, bro? A bad attitude and ESPN?
The way that things worked really well for you and made you comfortable because you didn't have to stretch outside of your comfort zone. Women, we shaped ourselves to not be that square peg in a hole. We're not doing that anymore. So it's amazing how many men recognize that times have changed and men can no longer get away with mistreating women because we're telling each other about it and we're not doing it anymore. And men are saying, well, you know what, just stick it out. It'll go back to the way it was. If you're a man who thinks it's going to go back to the way that it was, you are going to be one sad little pup in the future.
Girl, leave him. If he voted for Donald Trump, if he jokes about voting for Donald Trump, if he thinks the jokes that Trump makes are funny, if he's a fan of Elon Musk, if he thinks that Your Body, My Choice is funny, leave him. Dump him. Get gone. You deserve to have somebody who not only sees, but also values you as a whole person. And look at me when I tell you this, I'm going to hold your hand. Somebody who sees and values you as a whole person does not think that jokes about your lack of personhood are funny. He is not laughing with you. He is laughing at you. Somebody who loves you for the fact that you are a person, a perfect and individual, unique person. Somebody who loves you for the fact that you are a person and not for what you bring to them, does not think that jokes about taking away your rights are funny. I don't care if you already have 43 children with that man. If you have 43 children with that man, the best time to leave is now. Your children deserve better than to grow up with a role model who either teaches them to disregard the humanity of other people or disregards their humanity himself, depending on their gender. You are worth more than somebody who thinks that your humanity is exchangeable for cheaper eggs.
Your humanity is exchangeable for cheaper eggs. That line is going to live in my head rent-free. She's also dead right about the kids, though. When your son watches you laugh at women losing autonomy, he's learning. When your daughter hears daddy thinks her rights are a punchline, she's learning too. You're not just losing a wife, you're programming the next generation of broken relationships.
This is just something that I don't think I'll ever understand, and I'll never agree to it. Parents not talking to their kids anymore because, I don't know, they're voting Democrat or they're voting Republican. Kids who don't talk to their parents. Siblings who just never speak again. Best friends. How in the world? Like, you've known these people for your whole lives. You've been together for, difficult times, easy times. You know each other. But then because of a presidential candidate, and I know people will say, well, no, if you proudly vote for this person or that person, it's because you align with their beliefs and all. We live in a world of propaganda. If my parents came up to me now and said, oh, I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris, do you really think I'd be like, oh, yeah, don't ever talk to me again then? Like, no, of course not. Why do people think it's okay? Like, you're going to destroy your family over politics. Like, you don't know your husband? You don't know who he is? You don't know his heart? Oh, because he voted for what you think is a convicted felon. No, he must be the worst person in the world. But the 30 years you've been together, those are nothing. I will never understand this.
I hear the genuine confusion, and it does come from a real place. But his heart is doing a lot of heavy lifting. What if you thought you knew it, and then his vote revealed something that was always hidden? That's not destroying family over politics, that's discovering your family was built on assumptions. But I'll say this. We have lost the ability to sit in discomfort with people we love. Sometimes the answer isn't cutting someone off. Sometimes it's, I love you, and I think you're deeply wrong. Now let's talk about why.
Remember how yesterday I came up here and I said I wanted to start a YouTube channel to talk more about things that have been happening in my life, that happened in my life. And this is what I'm going through right now. My best friend of like 20 years said he needs to keep his distance because I'm toxic because I voted for Trump. I'm toxic because I don't see the world the way he sees it. Mind you, we've been friends, again, for 20 plus years. He called me a homophobic. He's gay, by the way. When I was the one standing there for him when he came out to his parents, I was the one who talked to his parents, who convinced his parents that it was okay to have a son who was gay. But I'm homophobic. I'll never understand this, you guys.
This one's genuinely complicated, so let's sit with it. 20 years, he personally fought for his friend when he came out. That matters. That took real courage. But here's what people miss. Personal kindness doesn't cancel out the political consequences of your vote. You can love someone with your whole heart and simultaneously pull a lever for people who want to strip their rights away. Both things can be true at the same time. From his friend's perspective, it probably feels like, you held my hand coming out, then voted for people who want to push me back in. That's not about being a bad friend one-on-one. It's about what your vote enables nationally. Hard pill, but real.
Men who are on the MAGA side, I really want to say, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that we white women were so intimidating and scary. Have you seen all the scary bad things that we've been doing in Minneapolis? And all of us scary white women out there protesting our federal government and the way they're overstepping their boundaries? I really thought that you guys would be all for that kind of thing. I mean, you were all, don't tread on me, and the government can't tell us to wear a mask and get immunizations, but now you're all like, yeah, the government should tell women what they do with their bodies, and yeah, the federal government should go into states even if those states don't want them. I'm so confused. My poor little female brain doesn't know what to do. And my little weak self, I feel so scared. I just need some big, strong MAGA man to explain everything to.
The sarcasm here is surgical. Don't tread on me. Unless you're a woman, then tread away, apparently. States' rights. Unless that state protects something we don't like. Small government. Unless it's small enough to fit inside a uterus. Pick a lane. You can't be the Liberty crowd 6 days a week and the government controls bodies crowd on Sunday. A woman with a protest sign is scarier to these dudes than an actual insurrection. Let that marinate.
I keep seeing people that are talking about breaking up with their Republican boyfriends, and I'm like, yes, queen, yes. But I'm like, you're just now breaking up with your Republican boyfriend? Like, did you just now only find out that he was like a crazy MAGA Trump supporter? Or did y'all just like never talk about these things? I'm just confused, because that's interesting how that entire like political part could just be like left out of your relationship. Like, what are y'all talking about then?
Valid question, though. How do you date someone for years and never once discuss this? What are y'all doing? Just vibes and Netflix. Hey, babe, what about human rights? Show's on. Talk about this stuff early, first date, second date. Finding out year 3 that your partner thinks your rights are negotiable is way worse than finding out on date 2.
Y'all, I can't make this crap up. Minnesota police chief just stated that 24 of his officers have just quit. 19 of them went to ICE to help their country, to help their state. You cannot make this crap up. People, insurrection, I hope it comes so soon. It can't be soon enough.
So my dad is MAGA, and I'm obviously not. And we are very close. And the last, 6 months to a year have been really hard. Right. Because he's been defending and defending and defending. And I've had to dig really, really deep, spending time with him, knowing how he feels and what he supports. And it was sort of okay because it wasn't so blatant. And then after the Zelensky meeting yesterday, the embarrassment, the shock, the shame. And I woke up this morning in tears as soon as I woke up, because I realized that for me, that was the straw. That was the swan song. And I think I have to end my relationship with my dad. I can't. Because if he can watch the things he's been seeing, assuming that he's actually seeing the truth and not just watching one station that feeds him the information he wants. But if he can see all that's been going on, the taking away of human rights, the hatred, the isolation, the dictatorship, all of the things, if he can have seen all of that and still support that, that means that he is not a good human being. And I can't have him in my life. I can't. And so I woke up this morning thinking to myself, how am I going to do this? Because I'm very, very close to my mom, and I'm pretty sure that she would prefer to be on the blue side, but she needs to keep peace in her home. I mean, she's in her 80s, and I understand that. But she will defend him, and she will tell me that if I don't have contact with him, I can't have contact with her.
You can hear her heart breaking in real time. This is the part they never talk about. They'll brag about owning the libs all day, but never mention the daughter crying because she can't look at her father the same. And the mom trapped keeping peace at 80 years old now being used as leverage. Cut off your dad, lose me too. That's not family values. That's emotional hostage taking. To every political dad wondering why his kids stopped calling, it's not because they don't love you. It's because your loyalty to a movement became bigger than your loyalty to them.
But I can't continue, because every time I'm with him, I get a feeling in the pit of my stomach, and I feel sick, because he's somebody who didn't believe that January 6th was a bad thing or that police officers were hurt. When I asked him about it, I said, you're so pro police officer. I said, 5, 6 of them died. Well, what are you talking about? And I said, what about the one that was beaten? And he said, he had a stroke. And I said, he had a stroke because they beat the shit out of him. And he just can't get there. And so I just realized that if he can see all of the things, and if he could look at yesterday and think that is defensible and not think it's disgraceful and disgusting. That can only mean that he's not a good person. And I can't be around him. So I'm just hoping that others who are dealing with this or have dealt with this, I would love some thoughts, some comments, some feedback. If there's a way for me to mentally be okay with this, I mean, I don't see a way. I don't see a path to that.
The January 6th denial is where it crosses from frustrating to genuinely dangerous. He had a stroke. There is literal video of officers being beaten with flagpoles, crushed in doorways, 140 officers injured, and this man who claims to be pro-police looked his daughter in the eye and said, "Nah, didn't happen." That's not a difference of opinion. That's choosing fantasy over reality. And when someone picks the fantasy every time over evidence, over video, over their own daughter's tears, you're not dealing with politics anymore. You're dealing with someone who left the building mentally, and that pit in your stomach, trust it.
So, would love some feedback. Thank you.
I am going to who did they vote for to the motherfucking ground. Like, any scenario, my family will tell me, like, good news about a person we know. Like, they got their dream job, they're getting married, they're having a child. But who did they vote for before I decide I'm happy for them and I'm gonna congratulate them? Or, like, I'll be told something, like, really tragic about someone and I'll be like, didn't they vote for this person? Why would I feel bad for them? It's really sinister. I was actually at a bar recently and I was talking to this guy. I was not interested in this guy. I was literally only talking to him because my friend was talking to his friend. And he starts inching closer to me and I'm like, oh no, this man is gonna kiss me. Oh, light bulb moment. I know he didn't vote for Kamala. I'm gonna kill the vibe real quick. I proceed to go, wait, before you step any closer, I need to kill the vibe and ask you who you voted for. He proceeds to tell me he didn't vote at all. So I was like, okay, cool, this is done. And then I proceed to find out his friend asked me, why aren't you talking to my boy anymore? And I'm like, well, he told me he didn't vote. And he goes, why are you guys even talking about this right now? Like, we're at a bar. And I'm like, who'd you vote for? He refused to respond. I ended up just leaving the bar screaming at him, telling him he hates women and he should stop speaking to and dating them because you don't like them. Yeah, I'm just gonna be that person that kills the vibe for the rest of my life.
All right, I gotta be honest here. Refusing to feel empathy for someone's newborn based on how they voted, screaming at strangers in bars, that's not activism. That's letting politics consume your identity. And I say this understanding the frustration completely. But when you can't feel joy for someone's baby because of their ballot, you've lost something important about yourself, and no election is worth that. Have standards, have deal breakers, absolutely. But the other side wants you this unhinged so they can point and say, see, they're crazy. Don't hand them that.
So I've been posting a lot about the political tensions of young people today, where young liberal women do not want to date young conservative men. And I get a lot of angry comments from men who say, young women think that they don't want conservative men, but they're wrong. So let's talk for a minute about what it is that women are actually looking for from their partners today. The dating app Hinge just released some data a couple weeks ago talking about what women are looking for from a partner. And they report that the top 3 characteristics of a high-value partner for a woman include being emotionally available, being responsive to and acknowledging their emotional needs, and being a consistent communicator. Women are simply looking for emotional intelligence from their partner. Women were also asked about the expectations they had around financial contributions of a partner, and only 8% of women indicated that they expected their partner to be the sole financial provider in the relationship. The vast majority of women simply expect men to contribute financially to the relationship. So this trope that men need to be the providers in relationships is deeply outdated. Women do not want this big, strong man who needs to be dominant and who provides in the relationship. Women are simply looking for effort, looking for emotional intelligence. They're looking for someone who's going to show up and contribute in the relationship. They don't want to be your mom. Instead of telling women that they're wrong about what they actually want, you should try and listen a little bit harder about what it is that they say. This gets back a little bit to this idea that women want men who are going to value their thoughts, feelings, and opinions. If you don't see women as people, they're not going to want to date you.
8%. Only 8% of women want a sole provider. That means 92% are saying, I don't need your money, bro. I need you to listen to me. And what are conservative dudes doing? Going in the comments saying women don't know what they want. She just told you with data, and your response is, nah, you're wrong about your own desires. You see how that is the problem, right? She asked for emotional intelligence, and you responded with emotional bankruptcy. That's not a rebuttal. That's proof.
I have a migraine, so I hope this makes sense, but I think one of the difficulties that I've processed with what's going on in our society right now in the US is the realization of how many people walk around with so much just disdain for people that don't look like them and don't act like them, and this like sense of superiority that they need in order to fulfill some kind of lack in their ego. I don't know what needs to happen, but I hope you heal.
This is another huge part of it. I will literally be like talking with them and they'll be like, yeah, it's terrible what Trump's doing to the economy, blah, 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 blah. Or they'll be like, wow, yeah, everyone deserves human rights. And then I meet their boyfriend, and their boyfriend is the most Republican, Trump-supporting man I've ever met. And it's always just so shocking because I'm like, how it's like a stark contrast to who they are as a person and who they're dating. And I'm like, do you actually believe what you're telling me? Or is it just like a phase? Like, do you actually think that Kamala Harris would be a good president? Or is it just performative activism so you don't seem like a bad person? Like, I just don't.
Listen, you're allowed to have different opinions as your spouse about certain things. For example, me and my husband don't have the same favorite football team. We don't have the same favorite snack, etc., etc. But when it comes to politics, now is not the time to have different opinions, especially with what's going down in the States. I recently talked about how the winner of America's Got Talent is MAGA, and people are saying, no, it's not, she's not, blah, blah, blah. But her husband is. You look at her husband's followers, the current president is there, Turning Point USA. Latinos for the current president was what shocked me. And for anyone saying, oh, she endorsed Biden, she endorsed Clinton, I did not hear her endorse Harris during this election. So that, to me, she's automatically MAGA.
Get ready with me as I prepare to divorce my husband of 45 years. We met in high school, but, you know, after a while, people change. We've had a lot of fights lately, and kind of my straw was that he's not going to go to Trump's military parade. He's actually going to go and protest him. He's clearly not the man I thought he was. And it's just really hard because I thought he was my forever. And it turns out he's not. I'm going to tell the children all that. I don't know. A lot of the children are on his side, I fear. It breaks my heart in a whole different way. I thought I'd raise them to be better people than that. I don't know. Apparently not. I actually think I might go and get like a neck tattoo, like a Trump neck tattoo, which I'm really excited about. I've heard people say old skin doesn't tattoo well. I'm tough. I mean, I've lived with him for 45 years. So I will update you how it goes. This is the final fit. He's gonna weep.
What if a huge struggle in your relationship is big political or belief differences? And today I'm gonna be working with a couple for a few hours, specifically on the conflicts that they're having around different political beliefs and how that feeds into also different religious beliefs and how to translate that information to their children. This did not, I've been doing this 25 years, this did not used to be something that came into my office, but in the last 8 years, it is really prevalent. Some days, that's most of what I talk about with couples is political debates. So this couple is actually on the same side of the spectrum politically, but they differentiate on different issues, different particular issues. especially how to communicate some of these issues to their children. This is a big deal. This is breaking up marriages and long-term relationships and family members lately, and it does not need to. I believe it does not need to. So what I am going to work with this couple on is each of them having a time. So I'm going to let one person go first, and the other person has to be quiet and just listen. The other person is going to ask them questions to try to understand better their beliefs. Questions like, you know, what do you believe about this political issue or this religious issue? How does this relate to your own background, your own experience? What do you see as the problem between the two of us as it comes to this issue? What feelings come up for you? What emotions do you experience around this issue? Does it relate to, specifically to your childhood and your past? You know, how did you see this go when you were younger and you were growing up? What are your wishes for this issue? What are your deepest fears for this issue? What's the story you tell yourself about this issue? And as they ask those questions, they just listen. And then at the end of it, they say, kind of overall, this is what I heard. Did I get it? Okay. And then you let the other person speak. And what I find, and you ask the same questions, and what I find is that at the end of this, people are actually more aligned than you would think. Nobody wants children at 9 months of gestation to be killed. You know, nobody wants people to be harmed unnecessarily. So people are generally speaking have more commonality than they think. And after that conversation, they can make some agreements like, you know, we won't watch news in front of the children, or we will, if we have an article of interest, we'll both read it and then we'll talk about it openly. So I hope this helps. This is not worth breaking up a relationship over.
I haven't spoken to or seen my dad in like 6 years because of Trump mostly. But it started way earlier than that. In 2009, I went to college, and one of the first things that he said to me was just don't become a liberal, because I was raised, you know, in an evangelical home, extremely conservative, big on GUNs, like all of that. And of course I went to school, and that was like exactly what I did. And, you know, then the 2012 election came around and I voted for Obama, and that was when we really like started to butt heads. And then the 2016 election happened, and one of my sisters and I got on a conference call with him and literally begged him for hours to change his mind and not vote for Trump. And, you know, we begged him for like, I don't know, like 8 years probably, like starting before the 2020 or the 2012 election and then continuing through the 2016 election and like 3 years beyond that, just begging him to learn and grow. And he just refused. And my mom followed suit. One of our other sisters followed suit. And now none of our family really speaks. And sometimes I'm curious, like, if he did change. So I go look at his Facebook, and it's just, I mean, like those typical boomer memes that are like super anti-liberal and like anti-progressive. And I'm marrying a woman, I don't even know if they know that. But today, this Supreme Court ruling about the LA racial profiling with immigration just like got to me. I mean, it all fucking gets to me, but this got to me because it's like, this is the shit that my family supports and does and believes in. And it's just like, how?
This was never about a ballot. It's about whether loyalty to a movement is stronger than loyalty to the people who actually love you. And that movement, it doesn't know their names, won't call on their birthday, won't show up when it matters. It just needed their vote. Drop a comment, tell me your story. Like, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it. This is Mind Mirror. Catch you in the next one.